Hello, everybody. Very glad to be here. My name is Brantly Millegan, and I'm going to be talking about lessons from 10 years of the Ethereum identity stack, deep into identity. So who am I? This is my on-chain profile. My on-chain name, ENS name, is brantly.eth. How many people here have a .eth name? Raise your hand. You have a couple people here? Okay, if you don't have a .eth name, you got to go to ens.domains and you got to get one. I'm going to talk about why that's important. It's my on-chain Ethereum profile. I'll talk about what that is. So the story of the Ethereum identity stack actually goes back about 50 years to the 1970s when we had one of the most important discoveries, you could say, or inventions in computer science of our lifetime, or of this generation, which is public key cryptography. How many people here know what public key cryptography is? Okay, raise your hand. It is extremely powerful. It allows a person to do encryption with another person without having to trade a secret decryption key ahead of time. You can actually just trade a public key. You can encrypt a message for that person, and only that message can decrypt it without you having to have traded a decryption key ahead of time. This had never been possible before in all of human history. It was invented in the 1970s. This was considered to be so powerful that the US government classified it and said it's illegal to use in most public products. And so it was invented in the 1970s. It was used only by the US government for a period of time. But then in the 1990s, there was a guy named Phil Zimmerman and a group of people called the Cypherpunks, who they lobbied to make it legal for the public to use. And they were successful. This was extremely important for the modern world. We would not have e-commerce. We would not have so many things on the internet unless we had public key cryptography. So like in your browser, when it says HTTPS, that S there is for SSL. That's a type of cryptography that is allowed because of the work they did in the 1990s. So the cypherpunks realized that public key cryptography could be the basis of many things, including digital identity. But they had a hard time getting adoption because a lot of people believe in privacy and they believe in liberty, but most people, even if they believe in that, are not motivated enough to change their life accordingly. They need like financial incentive or fun or something else. So there was a version of public key cryptography that was meant for people called PGP, which it was adopted by techies or something, but never really kind of broke out of that. Flash forward to 2008. We had the creation or the proposal of the creation of Bitcoin, and it used public key cryptography for wallets. This was very important because it was like another use case for public key cryptography. 2011, we had Namecoin, which was the first altcoin. And essentially the insight from Namecoin was that blockchain technology was invented for Bitcoin for money, but we could use this for other things, including for naming and identity. So that Namecoin was its own blockchain dedicated to names, specifically .bit names. And it was innovative. It was a cool thing. Never really got adoption, but the seeds of the idea was there. In 2014, Vitalik published the Ethereum white paper. He said there were 5 areas for use cases of Ethereum, and one of them was identity. Right there. He actually says we could use Ethereum to have a better blockchain-based naming system, maybe even better than Namecoin. 2015, of course, Ethereum launched. It also used public key cryptography for wallets. And Ethereum, of course, can run any smart contracts. So here's the key thing. What Bitcoin and then Ethereum in particular did is it got tons of people private keys who otherwise would never have had it, right? So crypto has accomplished with economic incentives what cypherpunks couldn't with appeals to privacy and freedom. The widespread adoption of private keys and the flourishing of a private key management industry, which we call wallets. Wallets are just private key management systems. Those that exist for years, but they always sucked. They were really bad. Crypto wallets, you think maybe they suck today or it could be better. They're way better than anything we had until just a few years ago. Yes, they need to keep getting better, but this is happening because we have an economic incentive. It's not simply an appeal to, values or something, which motivates some people, but not enough people. So Vitalik said, okay, with Ethereum we could do identity. There were a lot of early attempts at doing identity on Ethereum early on, and a lot of them failed. I think the reason a lot of them failed is because they thought of identity or even social as a single app. And turns out identity is not a single problem. It's a single hard problem. It's like 20 hard problems. And if you try to solve all of them at once, you might solve 5 of them if you're a really smart team, but you're probably not going to be able to solve all of them. You're going to cut corners. You're not going to get really what we want, and your project's going to fail. And this is a key thing that I've learned from 10 years in the Ethereum identity stack, which is this. Building things in a decentralized way is way harder than building things in a centralized way. And yes, there are many Web3 devs who wish they were building Web 2 because their life would be a lot easier, which is fine. I have nothing against Web 2. If you want to do Web 2, go do it. But if you're going to be in crypto, the whole point is we're trying to do things in a decentralized way. So then the next big breakthrough was Ethereum Name Service, ENS. Development started in 2016. It launched in 2017. And it began as .eth names for decentralized websites. It was modeled after DNS. Very soon after, they said, well, we can also use this for crypto payments. Interestingly, when it launched, nobody thought of it as identity primitive. People were not using that terminology. It was actually thinking of it more from this DNS analogy. But then in 2021, 4 years after launch, I was on the team at that point, and I realized that ENS was actually accidentally your crypto username and profile. So people were starting to store profile data. People were starting to put it on their Twitter to represent themselves. And I remember writing a thread about this in early 2021, and I, for the first time, wrote out, it's like your Web3 username. It like hit me like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's what we're really doing here. And I think the username is actually the meta use case for all the other things. So you want to send me money, for crypto payments? Well, send it to me. Send it to my username. You want to go to my decentralized website? You just put my name in. You can see like my page on the decentralized web. I gotta say, ENS has been very successful so far. And let's not take this for granted. It's really amazing how far it's come so far. There have been many, many, many attempts at blockchain-based naming. Obviously, I mentioned Namecoin, but there have been dozens and dozens of other attempts, most of which you haven't heard of because they tried and they failed. It's really hard to have success in these types of things. And so why has ENS succeeded when others didn't? A couple of reasons. One, it's not trying to compete directly with DNS. ENS sees itself as a complementary protocol that can expand the internet namespace. Other blockchain-based naming systems have tried to directly compete with DNS, which I think is a terrible mistake because you're not going to beat DNS because it's extremely entrenched. Another thing is ENS has great engineering. It's had great engineers right from the very beginning. Don't take that for granted. Number 3, long time horizons in protocol design. So ENS it's not just a science project, it's a real attempt at a new protocol of the internet, which means from the beginning, the creators, the developers of it, from the beginning and then ongoing, have made decisions for its long-term good rather than for short-term, just hype or, extraction. Yes, you can have some short-term success with that, but then it flares away and then you don't have anything. ENS has always been for the long term, and it's already been around for over 9 years, which makes it extremely lindy. It's one of the longest running apps without any kind of interruption on Ethereum, and it's here to stay in the long term. So then also in 2021, I realized that the Ethereum community had accidentally solved or created a viable solution to the single sign-on problem. So the single sign-on problem is we have tons of apps that you want to use, but every single one has its own sign-in system, which is really annoying, right? So one solution to this has been, well, you can sign in with Google everywhere, which is okay, but then it's like, well, now Google controls your life. You don't like that. So it'd be great. Wouldn't it be great if the internet had a decentralized, user-controlled, single sign-on system where you had your account for the internet, you had a username and profile for the internet, and then you brought that with you to all the different apps. So you don't have to get a new username, you don't have to create a new profile every time, you don't have to make a new password. You bring your own account to the app. Well, that is happening with Sign In with Ethereum. Sign with Ethereum, it's EIP-4361. It's an authentication standard for Ethereum accounts, pairs well with ENS, so your Ethereum account can be your account for the internet, and ENS can be your username and profile. This is supported in wallets like MetaMask and many others and throughout the ecosystem. Another project that I've been involved in is called Ethereum Photo Protocol. So, signing with Ethereum allows you to log in anywhere with your Ethereum account. ENS is your crypto username and profile. Ethereum Photo Protocol is your on-chain social graph protocol for Ethereum accounts that you can follow other Ethereum accounts on-chain. And again, take that with you between apps. It's on-chain. It's open for anybody to use. Has tens of thousands of users. And it complements ENS and signing with Ethereum very well. In talking about the Ethereum identity stack, there's lots of other things I could talk about. Some of these you may have heard of: Ethereum Attestation Service, XMTP, Ethereum Common Protocol, many more. I'm not attempting to be exhaustive in this presentation, but there are many parts here that you could talk about. Another project that my team has made is Ethereum Identity Kit, which is just a React component library that makes it very easy to integrate ENS, sign with Ethereum, and other things into your app. It's at ethidentitykit.com. So, what is Ethereum identity? This is what I think after having worked on this for about 10 years. Ethereum identity is not a single app. Instead, it is the sum of the information and relationships held in various decentralized protocols and open standards, which I call the Ethereum identity stack. The Ethereum identity stack is itself decentralized rather than being vertically integrated. And I think this is a good thing. In other words, we've unbundled the elements of identity to their smallest viable parts and have separated and have separate teams solving them individually with decentralized protocols and open standards. What this means is that each part can stand or fall on its own merits rather than being an all or nothing proposition. So for example, if you like ENS and you're all in on that, but you don't like the sign with Ethereum standard EIP-4361, you can make your own authentication standard that does not impact ENS or vice versa. So it means that at any point, people can improve a part of the stack or replace a part of the stack without giving up the entire stack. That makes the Ethereum identity stack much more resilient, and I think much better in the long term. Here's something I want to emphasize to end. To get to where we are today with ENS, with sign with Ethereum, with these other elements, okay? This has been a long road, very difficult to do. It's easy to take these things for granted. Like I said, with ENS, there have been many attempts at naming systems and usernames and all these things like this, the vast majority of which have failed. ENS, with luck and the right people and the right circumstances at the right times, has managed to get to where it is. And it has had, kind of pretty good success. And it needs to keep growing. But to even get to that point is really kind of like miraculous. And we should not take that for granted. Same thing with signing with Ethereum. Really hard to coordinate a lot of different people, wallet snaps around the industry to use the same standard. We're not 100% there, but we've made a lot of progress, and there's a lot of work still to be done. But because of all this hard work over the last 10 years, we do finally have these key parts of the stack. That is the end of my presentations. If you have questions, I am free to discuss after this presentation. Thank you very much.